Welcome back to Creating Coins, where we talk about money and mindset for entrepreneurs. Today we're talking about how to brand yourself. Now, this was a very popular topic when I asked you what you wanted to talk about next. And I think it's really interesting to me because there was a time when I honestly didn't know how to brand myself. I didn't know really what branding was. No one could really define it for me. I heard that you needed to have the right colors and the right logo, and that, you need to make sure your brand is on point. You need to make sure your brand is on point. Make sure your brand is good. Hey, people are watching you. I hope that your brand is good. I kept thinking, okay, well, can someone just tell me what branding is? And being someone who is very much a concrete thinker, like I need to know the specifics. I have a great way of, just breaking things down. And it was like everyone who I talked to about branding was just so creative that they couldn't just really break it down for me exactly what branding was. So I am going to, without giving you some, dictionary definition, I'm going to break down for you exactly what branding is and how you can brand yourself. The first thing that you want to think about is, first, don't worry about your colors, your logo, your fonts, and all of those things that people see, okay? That's visual branding, and that's kind of the easy part, right? That's, you choose your colors, you decide how they work with the message that you're trying to send, and you look at your fonts and make sure that they kind of match with who you're trying to reach. That's what a lot of people think about when they think branding, but really branding, and especially branding yourself, is figuring out your message, figuring out your story. Who are you? Where did you come from? What have you overcome? What have you achieved? What is it that makes you uniquely qualified to do what you do and to serve the people you serve? That is your brand. And what really helped me to figure out my whole branding was to start trying to get press hits. And when I first started trying to get into the press, and I started, I wanted to be quoted inside of Forbes, and I wanted to, maybe start writing for other publications. And I finally got, quoted in Forbes. I was featured in U.S. News and World Report. I was featured in The Economist. And how they say when it rains, it pours. Once I got one press hit, the rest of them started coming. But what really was, one reporter told me, she said, "You have a really amazing story." And I honestly wasn't aware of that. I didn't know that I had done something to pull this story together. I just knew that I created my about page and I was saying the same thing over and over again. And what I realized was that was my brand. And my brand ultimately was what made me LaTisha. I graduated into the Great Recession. I had a hard time finding a job, so I was living at home with my parents, and I decided to create my own job after hearing my mom on the phone with a relative saying, "Well, I don't know what Tisha's doing. She's got 2 degrees, but she's not doing anything with either one of them." And that moment was the catalyst for me to start my business, to start what brought me to where I am today, which is, full-time running a business for myself. So you have to figure out what it is that defines you, what makes you you. Once you figure that out, your brand story should be woven into everything that you do. And whatever your colors are and your fonts are, that is not necessarily what defines you and makes you you. It's just the visual image of who you are and what you do. When you continue to share that message over and over again, wherever you go and with whomever you speak, that's going to continue to make you be that person that they think about. When someone says, I need to create a sales funnel, or I need to gain more clients, or I need somebody to help me with technology, they should automatically think of me based on my story that I've put out there and based on what I've done, okay? And if I'm not doing a good job of branding myself, then my name won't come to mind for people who know me, right? So you need to be consistently talking about who you are and what you do and sharing your story. Then, once you have your story and your brand messaging, you take the colors and the fonts and all that visual branding and you weave it into everything that you do. So if you're gonna create a quote, use those colors and fonts. If you're gonna go for a speaking engagement, make sure you use an on-brand outfit. I'll show a couple pictures of speaking engagements and events that I've been to where I typically wear essentially the same thing over and over again. I've got a couple different colors that work with my brand, They work with my skin tone and exactly the way that I like to portray myself. And those essentially became my brand colors. Like, honestly, my favorite color was purple. Teal looks really, really good on me, and I always love wearing pink as a pop. I figured out how to make those colors work in the palette, and I just kind of put those together to use for my brand. I didn't really think about it too much more than that, okay? So remember that branding is much more than your visual branding. It's all about your message and exactly how you present yourself. So this is what I want you to do. I'm actually gonna give you a little piece of homework, okay? I want you to think about your story. Essentially, we call it your origin story. How did you get started in what you're doing now? What were the things that you had to overcome in order to make it to where you are right now? And I want you to just write out your story. And then what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to share it below in the comments, no matter how long or short it is right now, even if it's just a couple sentences, or if you've actually got an entire about story. I would love to see you share it down below. And I'll also go ahead and include mine below as well so that you can see an example of that. And I'd love for you to just, maybe look at someone else's, start commenting on it, ask them questions. We really want to get the conversation going, and how we do that is by commenting in the comments and sharing our stories. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up or even a heart if you really loved it. And thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Creating Coins. I'll see you in the next one.